This is you. You're staring at a photograph that shouldn't exist. It shows the President of the United States signing an executive order with his left hand, just like you do. Same jawline, same crooked nose, same scar above the right eyebrow. The man who placed it on your table wears no badge, gives no name, and doesn't blink. He tells you that your country needs your face, not your skills, not your brain, not your loyalty, just your face. What you don't know is that faces like yours have an expiration date, and yours just started counting down. The first week is medical. They scan every millimeter of your body. MRI, dental molds, retinal mapping, voice frequency analysis. A plastic surgeon marks your face with a surgical pen, drawing lines along your jaw, your nose, the folds around your eyes. He doesn't speak to you. He speaks about you to a team of 4 assistants, pointing at your features like a mechanic pointing at engine parts. You are not a patient. You are a project. The differences between your face and the president's are minor but critical. Your earlobes hang 2 millimeters lower. Your left eyebrow arches slightly higher. The bridge of your nose deviates a fraction to the right. They fix all of it. 3 surgeries over 6 weeks. You're awake for none of them, and informed about none of them in advance. If you wake up with bandages and pain, and a nurse who checks your vitals but never meets your eyes. The pain is sharp, then dull, then sharp again. But here's the thing about pain in this place. Nobody cares. You bleed, you heal, they cut again. Between surgeries, the behavioral team takes over. A voice coach plays recordings of the president's speeches at half speed, isolating vowel shapes, breath patterns, the specific rhythm of his pauses. You spend 4 hours a day repeating sentences into a microphone while software compares your waveform to his. A behavioral psychologist studies the president's public appearances frame by frame. She teaches you how he holds a pen, always between the index and middle finger, with the cap still on, when he's listening. How he tilts his head 3 degrees to the right when pretending to consider a question he's already decided on. How his smile starts on the left side of his mouth, exactly 1/4 of a second before the right. You drill these movements hundreds of times until they stop feeling like acting and start feeling like breathing. A posture specialist restructures your walk. The president has a slight forward lean when approaching a podium, a confidence gesture that reads as authority on camera. You practice it in a hallway lined with mirrors, watched by 3 analysts with clipboards. Straighter, slower, chin up 1/2 inch, again, again. The weeks blur into a single gray corridor of repetition and correction. Your old name stops meaning anything. Nobody uses it. They call you by a 7-digit alphanumeric string that sounds like a serial number for military equipment. A cruel irony that it fits, because that's exactly what you are. 3 months in, they bring you to a room with a single mirror covering the entire wall. The director stands behind you. She tells you to look. You obey. The man in the mirror is not you. He has your height, your bone structure, something buried deep behind the eyes that still remembers the diner and the cold coffee. But the face is the president's face, the jaw, the brow, the careful symmetry that surgeons spent weeks engineering. Your hands are the same hands you've always had, but the way they hang at your sides, relaxed, slightly curled, one thumb hooked into a pocket, that's his gesture. You've been wearing it for weeks without noticing. The director asks you how you feel. You don't answer. Not because you're being defiant, because you genuinely don't know. The person who walked into this facility 90 days ago no longer exists. He wasn't killed, he was overwritten. And the thing that replaced him doesn't have a name, a history, or a single person on Earth who would recognize him as himself. She nods as if your silence confirmed exactly what she expected. She says the next phase begins tomorrow. Deployment. That word lands like a hammer on glass. Training had a rhythm, a structure you could survive inside. Deployment means the outside world, where the bullets are real and the crowds don't know you're a forgery. They move you to a windowless briefing room. A military liaison points at satellite photographs spread across the table. You recognize the city from news broadcasts, a foreign capital where the president is scheduled to make a diplomatic appearance in 11 days. The motorcade route is drawn in red across an overhead map, and that's 14 kilometers through dense urban streets. Open top for the first 3 to project confidence. Enclosed vehicle for the remaining 11. The liaison explains the logic with the calm of a man reading a grocery list. The president will not be in the car. You will. He will be watching from a secure facility 600 kilometers away, monitoring your performance on a live feed with a 9-second delay. If you do your job correctly, 30 million television viewers and 200,000 people lining the streets will believe they saw their president. If you make a single mistake, a wrong gesture, an unfamiliar hesitation, the illusion collapses. What you don't know is that his briefing packet has a section labeled Asset Loss Contingency. It's 4 pages long. Your name isn't in it. Your serial number is. The morning of deployment, they dress you in a suit that costs more than you used to make in a year. A tailor adjusts the shoulders by a fraction, while a makeup artist applies a layer so thin you can barely feel it, just enough to match the president's skin tone under specific lighting conditions. Then comes the vest. 31 pounds of layered Kevlar and ceramic plates strapped over your undershirt. It presses against your ribs like a cage built for your bones. You've trained with the weight for weeks, learning to wave without letting the bulk shift your shoulder line, learning to turn at a podium without the collar riding up. But training was fluorescent lights and concrete walls. This is real. They walk you to the staging area. The presidential limousine sits under a steel canopy, flanked by 6 identical black SUVs. The flags are mounted on the hood. The seals gleam. A Secret Service agent opens the rear door. You climb in. The leather is cold. The armored glass is thicker than your fist. The world outside exists, but muffled, distant, like hearing life through water. The motorcade rolls out at exactly 9:14. The first 3 kilometers are open top. The crowd is enormous. Thousands of faces pressed against metal barricades, holding flags, holding phones, screaming a name that isn't yours. You wave. Left hand up, slight rotation at the wrist, 3-second hold, slow, lower. You've rehearsed this gesture 1,100 times. Now you do it while a foreign sun hits your face and strangers weep with joy at the sight of you. They believe you. Every single one of them. The roar hits like a physical force, and a wall of borrowed love crashing against a borrowed face. For one disorienting second, you almost believe it yourself. Almost. 600 kilometers away, the real president watches on a screen. You imagine him studying your wave, your posture, the angle of your jaw. You wonder if he's satisfied, or if he sees what you really are, a piece of equipment shaped like a man, rolling through a foreign capital in a car designed to survive a bomb. What you don't know is that he isn't watching your performance. He's watching the rooftops. Because the intelligence briefing he received this morning contained a threat assessment that was never shared with you. The enclosed section begins at kilometer 3. The roof slides shut. The noise drops. Your earpiece crackles with advanced team chatter. Everything on schedule. Route clear. Your hands tremble beneath the armored window ledge where nobody can see them. Not because something went wrong, because everything went right. And that means they'll send you out again. They drive you in a vehicle with blacked out windows. You don't know the direction, the distance, or the time. They took your phone at the diner, snapped the SIM card in half, and dropped the pieces into your cold coffee. The man in the passenger seat hasn't spoken since the parking lot. The one driving hasn't looked at you once. You arrive at a facility that doesn't exist on any map. Underground, no windows, no clocks. The air smells like recycled steel and antiseptic. A woman in a white coat meets you at a steel door and introduces herself only as the director. She doesn't shake your hand, she studies your face the way a sculptor studies a block of marble, tilting her head, measuring distances with her eyes. She tells you that you have been selected for a program so classified that even the vice president doesn't know it exists. You ask what the program is. She says you're going to become the president of the United States. Not politically, physically. Every detail of your appearance, your voice, your posture, your gestures, down to the way you blink under camera flashes will be rebuilt from scratch. You laugh. She doesn't. She pulls up a file on a wall screen. 4 black and white photographs of men who look almost identical. She tells you these are Stalin's body doubles. At least 4 confirmed. They attended parades, sat in armored cars, waved from balconies while the real Stalin hid in his dacha outside Moscow, terrified of assassination. 2 of them were never seen again after the war. No graves, no death certificates, no names. You stop laughing. She swipes to a second file, Saddam Hussein. His regime maintained a network of surgically altered decoys. Men pulled from the population, reshaped on operating tables, trained to mimic his walk, his hand gestures, the way he held a cigar. After the invasion, coalition forces captured multiple men who looked exactly like him. They couldn't confirm the real one for days. Some of the doubles were executed by their own side when they were no longer useful. She lets that settle. Then she tells you there's a difference between those programs and this one. Those were dictatorships running on fear. This is a democracy. What you don't know is that the difference is smaller than she makes it sound. And by the time you figure that out, your old face will already be gone. The earpiece crackles again. This time the voice is different, tighter, a syllable clipped short, the way trained operators sound when they're suppressing urgency. New intel. Credible threat. Sniper team identified along the route, positioned somewhere between kilometer 9 and kilometer 12. Specific coordinates still being triangulated. Your stomach drops, but your face doesn't move. They trained that out of you in week 4, the micro-expression suppression, the ability to keep the presidential mask locked while your insides turn to ice. You wait for the words you've rehearsed in your mind since the briefing room. Extract the asset, reroute the motorcade, abort. Instead, the earpiece delivers 3 words that rewrite everything you thought you understood about your role. Maintain current course. You blink. That's the only crack in the mask. You wait for clarification, for context, for someone to explain why they're driving you into a confirmed kill zone instead of pulling you out. The clarification never comes. The convoy doesn't slow. The SUVs don't peel off. The route stays red and straight on the map, glowing on the dashboard screen in front of your driver, who hasn't looked at you once since you got in the car. What you don't know is that the threat was confirmed 6 hours ago. 6 hours. While you were standing in front of a mirror practicing your wave, they already knew a team was setting up a shooting position along your path. They didn't pull you because pulling you would mean canceling the appearance. Canceling the appearance would mean admitting vulnerability. And admitting vulnerability would cost more politically than losing you would cost operationally. You are a line item on a risk assessment, and the math came out against you before you finished your breakfast. The motorcade pushes deeper into the city. The buildings grow taller, the streets narrow, the crowd thins out as you enter the diplomatic corridor. Fewer civilians, more concrete, more elevation on both sides. Perfect geometry for a long-range shot. Your training kicks in against your will. You scan the rooftops through the armored glass, calculating angles, estimating distances, measuring windows. But you aren't a counter sniper. You aren't a soldier. You are the target, dressed in a suit that costs more than your life is worth on the spreadsheet that decided you'd keep driving. The limousine slows for a scheduled stop, a ceremonial waypoint, where the car pauses for exactly 8 seconds to allow photographers a clean shot. A cruel irony, because somewhere above you, someone else is looking for the same thing. The car stops. 8 seconds, you raise your hand. The flash of cameras erupts from the press corral like white lightning. 1, 2, 3. Your wrist rotates on schedule. 4, 5. Your eyes sweep the crowd, but your training keeps them soft, presidential. The gaze of a man who trusts the perimeter. 6, 7. You feel it before you hear it. A shift in the air, a pressure change so subtle it registers in your chest before your brain can name it. 8. The glass spiders. A single impact point on the window, 13 inches from your left temple. The armored layer holds, but the crack spreads like frozen veins across your field of vision. Then the sound arrives. A crack that splits the sky open, flat and dry, nothing like the movies. The Secret Service agents outside the car react instantly. Doors fly open on the escort vehicles. Bodies move in rehearsed patterns, covering angles, collapsing the perimeter. But they're protecting the car, not you. You are the thing inside the car that's supposed to absorb exactly this. The shield shaped like a president. Time fractures. You see everything in frozen frames, the press corps scattering like insects. A woman dropping her camera on the asphalt. An agent's hand reaching for the limousine door, not to pull you out, but to keep it shut, to keep you visible, to keep the image intact. Because right now, 30 million people are watching a live feed of the President of the United States under fire, and the President must not disappear. The president must be brave. The president must remain. In that frozen second, a door opens in your mind, and you see the architecture of your entire existence laid bare. Though they didn't train you to survive this, they trained you to die during this. Every surgery, every drill, every rehearsed gesture was designed to produce a single result, a body convincing enough to take a bullet on camera, so the real one never has to. Your survival was never in the operational plan. Your death was the operational plan. The second shot hits the trunk. The car lurches forward, tires screaming against asphalt. The driver floors it through the kill zone while agents sprint alongside. You're pressed against the seat, heart slamming, hands gripping the leather, alive only because the shooter's angle was 3 degrees off. 3 degrees, the same number they use to teach you how the president tilts his head when he's pretending to think. What you don't know is that back in the secure facility, the real president watched both shots on his screen. He didn't flinch. He watched the way a man watches a car crash on the news. Distant, analytical, already calculating the political value of the footage. You were too good. A bad copy would have been pulled from the program weeks ago. Your perfection is your death warrant, and you just survived it by accident. They extract you through a service tunnel beneath the embassy. No sirens, no medics rushing to your side. A windowless van with steel benches and 2 men who don't introduce themselves. They drive you to a military airfield where a cargo plane waits with its ramp down. Nobody asks if you're hurt. Nobody asks how you feel. A woman in tactical gear hands you a bottle of water and a change of clothes. She tells you to strip. The suit, the shirt, the vest, even the shoes, everything goes into a black bag that she seals with a zip tie and labels with your serial number. You stand in your underwear on a concrete floor in a foreign country, and for the first time since the shot, you feel the cold. They fly you back in silence. 14 hours in the belly of a plane with no windows and no seats. Just cargo netting and the hum of engines. You don't sleep. You sit on the metal floor with your back against a crate and stare at your hands. The president's hands. The hands they built for waving at crowds that will never know your name. At the facility, there's no debrief with the director, no handshake, no acknowledgement that you survived something you were designed not to survive. Instead, a technician runs a medical scan, notes the bruising on your ribs from the vest impact, and files the report. A logistics officer tells you that your next deployment window opens in 9 weeks. 9 weeks. That's how long it takes to let the bruises heal and the news cycle move on before they put you back in the car. You realize this is the rhythm now. Deployment, survival if you're lucky, maintenance, redeployment. You are not a person who almost died. You are a system that experienced a malfunction and will be repaired and reused. If the shots had landed 3 degrees to the left, you'd be in a different room right now, a cold one, with a tag on your toe bearing a name that isn't yours. They would bury you under a classified protocol. No funeral, no flag, no family notified because your family was erased from the record the day you entered the program. The body in the ground would be filed as a training accident. The real president would attend a private memorial for an unnamed service member, say a few words about sacrifice that a speechwriter crafted in 11 minutes, and go back to the Oval Office. And history would never mention you. Not once. Not ever. Because that's what happens to body doubles. They don't retire. They don't write memoirs. They don't grow old telling stories to grandchildren. They serve until they stop being useful, and then they disappear into the same silence they were pulled from. Stalin's doubles vanished. Saddam's were shot in ditches. Montgomery's double went back to being an actor and spent decades trying to convince people his story was real. Nobody believed him. Nobody ever believes the copy. 9 weeks pass. The bruises fade. The technicians clear you for redeployment. But something has shifted behind the president's eyes that stare back at you from every mirror in this facility. You've started avoiding reflections. Not because you're afraid of what you see, but because you don't see anything. The man from the diner is gone. The president is on television right now, shaking hands with a foreign minister, alive and untouched. So the face in the mirror belongs to no one. You are a living ghost, a breath without a body, a suit without a man inside it. One night, you sit alone in your quarters. The fluorescent light hums. You ask yourself the question that nobody in this facility has ever asked you. What do you want? The words feel foreign in your mouth, like a language you spoke as a child and forgot. You search for an answer. Nothing comes. They deleted your wants the same day they deleted your face. You wanted coffee tips and a warm bed once. That man is dead. You want to survive the next deployment. But that's not a want. That's a reflex. A machine doesn't want to keep running. It just does until someone switches it off. You think about power. The real president sits behind a desk with nuclear codes and a pen that can reshape continents. But he can't walk through a foreign city without sending a copy of himself first. He can't trust his own survival to his own body. He needs you, a disposable replica, to test whether the air is safe enough for him to breathe. What does that say about the most powerful man on Earth? He is just as replaceable as you are. The difference is that he doesn't know it yet. Power isn't a person, it's a costume, and you've worn it. You know how light it is. You know how easily it transfers from one body to another. You know that the crowds don't cheer for a man. They cheer for a silhouette, a jawline, a wave. Give them the right shape, and they'll love it. Give them the right shape, and they'll mourn it. The shape is all that matters, and shapes are cheap. The deployment order comes. Another city, another motorcade, another red line drawn across a map. You put on the suit. You strap on the vest. You climb into the car. The flags are mounted. The seals gleam. The door closes. You look at the armored glass, and the president looks back, ready to die for a country that will never know he existed. Not the real one. The other one. The one who was